A few weeks ago, Kim Iverson covered the new initiative that would require banks report transactions of $600 or more to the IRS. Take a look back on that.
So who are they really targeting by requiring a reporting threshold of only $600? The answer seems pretty obvious to me. They're not going after the rich. They're targeting the little people, the under-the-table wage earners, contractors, small business owners, and pretty much anyone in the service industry and gig economy. You got a side hustle? Do they pay you in cash? Do you earn tips? Were you one of the thousands of personal care workers who figured out you could make money through some home visits when the salons were shuttered during the pandemic lockdowns? Have you kept some of those side clients going? Are you one of the millions who quit your job and started working for yourself in some way as a contractor? Are you one of the thousands of teachers with a low salary and a cash-paying side job to keep yourself afloat? Well, the gig economy has been growing for quite some time, but the pandemic perhaps made it accelerate faster. And now the IRS wants their cut. Any deposit or withdrawals that are $600 or more, which could be something as simple as paying rent or a mortgage or even paying off a credit card bill, and in some instances student loans, will be subject to IRS scrutiny. Essentially, they're going to find out that you made that money in your gig economy job, and they intend to tax you for it. Now look, we're all for everyone paying their fair share. No one's advocating for evading taxes. But the Democrats say they're going after the rich, yet their actions show us they're actually going after not even the white-collar middle class. Most of them are salaried with automatic taxation coming out of each paycheck. But instead, their actions show us they seem to be targeting the blue-collar gig economy workers, the very people they claim to be helping.
The National Republican Congressional Committee is certainly not letting this fundraising opportunity go to waste. They're already running Halloween-themed ads.
What's scarier than Halloween? Democrats spending billions to hire an army of IRS agents to spy on your bank account. Cindy Axne, Nancy Pelosi, and Joe Biden's plan would give the federal government new authority to monitor your spending. Tell Cindy Axne to stop spying on your bank account.
That's a spooktacular ad. According to the NRCC, the ads will target 15 Democrats in districts across the country, including Katie Porter, Johanna Hayes, and Stephanie Murphy, and Tom Malinowski. Joining us now to discuss is Team Rising. Nomiki Konst is host of the Nomiki Show, board member at Matriarch PAC, and a former candidate for New York City Public Advocate. And Rina Shah, political advisor and senior fellow for inclusive governance at the Rainey Center for Public Policy, joins us now. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
So what do you think, Rina? Have Republicans found a winning message to go after this? Obviously, it's something we've criticized on the show, or Kim criticized it. I agreed with her. I think Ryan had some level of possible agreement with the criticism. Do you think this is a good message for Republicans to run with?
Oh, man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I love that ad. It's just so spot on. It's so good. And how on brand for Halloween. I came up in an era where this is exactly what I went around saying when people asked me what I believed in. I don't want the government in my bank account. I don't want them in my backyard. And I certainly don't want them in my bedroom. So those are, for me, the 3 Bs. And I just find it absolutely sick and weird that we want to bloat the federal government even more, have more bureaucrats looking into average Americans' lives. The gig economy is an incredible thing. Also, there have been moms like me forever. I have 2 kids under the age of 5. I've had numerous babysitters, wonderful caregivers in my home, helping me take care of aging parents, helping me take care of kids, so that I could go about and be the American professional working woman I am. Why does the government need to look at these micropayments I'm making? $600? That is such a low figure there. This is punitive to the working class and the middle class, and I hate it. So if you were listening to C-SPAN last week like I was, when I drive along with my big minivan, I had the floor going. And while the Democrats were talking about Steve Bannon, which I was very much in support of, holding him in contempt and making him pay for what is not listening to a congressional subpoena, I was listening to Republicans make the case for why the government should not be in our bank account. And I loved it. I listened to so many floor speech after floor speech from Republicans that I generally have not agreed with in the past couple of years, but they were making a good point. This should not be happening. It actually even feels anti-democratic to me. So I can't believe it. I'm really upset that Democrats are doing it. I hope it stops.
And so, Nomiki, where I kind of come down on this is I think that the Democrats here have identified a real problem. It's not gig workers. It's business owners who claim to have $10,000, $20,000 in income, but actually have several $100,000 in income every year, and so are dodging taxes. That's the problem. I don't think they've put their finger on the right solution here, and I think part of it is driven by the austerity, the deliberate austerity that has reduced IRS funding by 20% over the last decade in real numbers, not like they didn't get their increases. It's gone actually down a fifth. And so, while they've taken on more responsibilities, like the individual mandate and implementing other tax policies. So, because they don't have the capacity that they used to, now they want a cheat code. They just want the banks to tell them, hey, who had a net of $200,000 coming into their bank account, so that we can match that with their tax return that says they actually made $10,000. They want that cheat code. But if they get the billions in new money that's in this reconciliation package, it seems like they ought to just be able to do normal audits of rich people. And if they can do those audits, then they're going to get that information. Everybody accepts the idea of audits. You go back to auditing people, then people are going to start being honest about their taxes again, because they're going to realize that they might get audited, and it's not worth getting caught, because there could be genuine, serious consequences coming with getting caught. I don't like the idea of the federal government having this type of surveillance authority, even if I understand why they want it. Where do you come down on this question?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because banks should. Banks are monitoring your bank account, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to flag anything that seems unusual.
Yeah, but they don't know what you're telling the IRS.
Correct.
Right.
That's very true. It's basically a cross-reference. But just to put this in perspective, $166 billion per year, right, has been lost because the IRS is under austerity, because Republicans have gutted the IRS because they don't want the IRS essentially, cross-checking collecting taxes, doing its job. But I also want to flag something really important here. This isn't for $600. This latest plan is for bank accounts that in or out $10,000. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but like you said, if you're reporting $10,000 and you're actually bringing in a lot more, and the profits are much higher, that's tax fraud, and that's that money could be going to things like fixing our roads or paying for paid family leave, et cetera, et cetera. But I think you're right. Like, this is also a strategy to put pressure and remind the public that we don't have the tax money coming in because there are all these tax sheets, whether they're billionaires who are lobbying their way out of taxes, or folks who are just taking advantage of the fact that the IRS is completely gutted. But I also want to flag one more thing. This messaging originated from InfoWars, and it is not entirely accurate of what is being presented. And this is exactly what the Republican Party does today, is they take something that is completely conspiratorial and they mainstream it, and then they spread it, whether it's on the airwaves or it's through ads on Facebook or whatever their Cambridge Analytica tactics are. This is how it gets to everyday Americans, so that they're afraid of that the money is that the government is coming after them, when really it's about the big guys. It's the big guys who are taking money away from them. It's the big guys who are making it so that their roads are in disarray, so their schools are completely outdated. I mean, that's what's happening here, is the big guys are not paying taxes, they're cheating, and the burden goes on the everyday working person, who's basically making it so that these big guys are able to do so. But it's their work giving them that power.
But the myth of the good government agency that just careful steward of the public will, only going to go after the big guys. No, they went at, we decreased the IRS's budget because it was a explicitly political organization pursuing.
That was also bogus. And
it was not bogus. It was absolutely not bogus.
So there was an IG investigation into this after Republicans complained, and people can go read that IG investigation. What they're saying is that Lois Lerner, in the wake of Citizens United, started going after Tea Party groups. That was the Republican challenge. When the IG actually looked into it, they found that a ton of groups were registering as nonprofits after Citizens United and were engaging in political activity. The strapped IRS was trying to figure out ways to identify ones that were engaging in political activity and then looking at them further. So Tea Party was one of the keywords that they searched. They also searched medical marijuana. They searched Occupy Wall Street.
They also went after people, progressive people as well.
Climate and environment. I mean, the law is you can't get tax subsidies for your political purposes.
Yeah, I didn't say it was they only targeted the right or anything, but they did go after political groups.
Right, but it is illegal to register as a 501c3 and engage in nothing but political activity. Like, that's illegal. And these are the cops.
I mean, that technical distinction in the law makes no sense anyway.
Well, that's
like
fine,
political advocacy, but you can't endorse a candidate. It's a really it's a stupid
C4,
tax
not for C3.
part of the law anyway.
C3 cannot endorse a candidate. C3 can't do any of that. A C3 has to stick with educational purposes.
Right. Well, they weren't endorsing candidates. They were,
Some of them were.
Well, if they were endorsing candidates, right, then they're the other designation, and
so they were trying to catch the people that were getting the tax deduction.
They were doing more than that. They were. Well, we have to leave it there, but the IRS could have done it better. They could have seemed like a less political organization, and they would have
They could have just looked the other way, which in hindsight they probably should have. Yeah.
What is the end here? I mean, the worst thing that happens is they seize your taxes and they audit you. What are you afraid of?
That's a really bad thing. No, our predatory government should not be confiscating wealth from people on suspicion of political activity they don't approve of.
Wait, confiscation is what are they confiscating? They're confiscating taxes that they didn't pay. That is something that every American has to do. We all have to pay taxes.
Your money doesn't belong to the government. It belongs to you. And then we live in a society where you're going to give part of your income to the government. It's not the government. It's their responsibility to prove because of tax law, they get to take it. It's not, we're not on defense. Like, we have to justify to the government why we deserve to keep our wealth.
And if your argument is, if you're not doing anything wrong, then it's not a problem. That doesn't work when you're
not for and not for any other government agency do we give that kind of leniency. Really got to leave it there. Thank you both of you for joining us for this discussion, fiery discussion.
It was a good one. Thank you.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.